11 years ago, I was initiated onto my healing journey. It's been 11 years of countless therapy sessions, workshops, retreats, books, and experiments with a wide variety of modalities. Suffering and seeking healing really seemed like my full-time profession for a good chunk of those years. And there were times where I was hopeful and things were progressing. And there were also many times where I thought things would never change, ever. But they did. Not overnight, definitely not overnight, but change they did, in ways I could have never imagined. In this video, I want to share my journey with you and what helped me heal the most. I used to struggle with debilitating depression and loneliness, a painful, anxious attachment style and resulting toxic relationships, deep shame around my sexual identity, and also substance abuse. I used to be dissociated from my body. I didn't even know I had a body or a breath, really. And I was stuck in my mind with obsessive thinking and rumination. My internal voice was often telling me that I was not lovable and that I was worthless. And I was simultaneously often flooded with emotions and at the same time distracting and avoiding my emotions. I was dealing with eczema and psoriasis on my face and my body. I had intense gut issues, SIBO, IBS, all of it, and also quite a bit of chronic pain. As I'm sharing this, it's hard to believe this used to be my life. Everything is so different now. Today, I'm in a happy, healthy, and conscious relationship. My mind is in a healthy place. I love and feel grateful for my life every single day. My body is healthy and fit. And I want to share my story and what has helped me the most in the hopes that you can heal yourself faster. This is the resource I wish I'd had when I was initiated onto my healing and individuation journey, as Carl Jung would call it. A few years back, I documented my entire healing and personal growth journey from 2012 until 2019 on my website. As I was compiling part 1, I was still in the middle of my journey. I had already come a very long way, but of course, I didn't yet know what would lie ahead. And it was essentially healing version 1.0. A lot has happened since, and so this is the updated version, the healed version 2.0. And who knows, maybe there will be a version 3.0. My journey began in 2012. I was initiated onto my healing and individuation path after a breakup that shattered my world and myself into a million pieces. It wasn't just any breakup. I had been in the queer closet until I was about 26, which is when I met this Australian woman in India. She eventually became my first girlfriend, which was a huge deal for me. I was hiding my queer sexuality and the fact that I was into women since I was a young teenager. And so this woman was who I came out with. She was my first real, true, big love. For the first time in my life, I experienced mutual love, and she introduced me into the world of same-sex love. I thought we would be together forever, getting married and having babies, all of it. And when this relationship fell apart for so many good reasons, actually, looking back, I couldn't do anything to stop it. My world, my hopes and dreams, my identity, it all collapsed. My heart was broken and I felt incredibly lost. It was really the most painful period of my life. I had no tools, no clue about self-development. I had barely any friends left as I was so focused on the relationship that I neglected my social life. I didn't know how to process my grief and my anger, and I felt like I was left out in the desert all by myself. All I could do was numb myself with alcohol and weed and traveling. And my days were filled with spiraling depression and endless questions that I just couldn't find answers to until I found the book, A New Earth, by Eckhart Tolle in my mom's bookshelf, by the way. It blew my mind when I realized that I was actually not my thoughts and I didn't have to believe all of them. Soon after, I started joining friends of mine who had been going to this Buddhist center in Berlin. And there I learned to meditate and finally got some answers and slowly started to understand the roots of my suffering and emotional pain. And so the journey began. I thought I could hack my healing in 1 year. I really believed that, and I actually called it healing hacking at the time. I signed up for therapy, I began reading self-help books, I started meditating and journaling daily. At the end of the first year, I realized that this was really only the beginning. I was determined to do whatever it took to figure myself and my suffering out. And so I started digging and digging deeper. I went on a ton of retreats. I dove deep into my yoga practice. I worked with life coaches. I saw energy healers. I got my astro and human design charts read, and I went to several Tony Robbins and Dr. Joe Dispenza seminars. I went plant-based, vegan. I worked with a shaman in Ecuador in many private one-on-one plant medicine ceremonies. I did juice fasts and water fasts. I did Grinberg therapy. I did a Kambo ceremony, which I really wouldn't want to do ever again. And I went to see all the osteopaths and acupuncturists and chiropractors for my health issues. I read book after book after book. And I traveled the world for many years to find healing and relief. It was all needed and helpful at the time, but often the effects didn't last very long. And I kept finding myself in toxic dating situations. I kept getting my heart broken. I kept struggling with depression. I kept dissociating and leaving my body. And so I kept seeking for years. All this seeking turned into a bit of an addiction, a distraction from actually going deeper. Chasing the next peak experience, the next exciting event or plant medicine ceremony can get, it didn't contribute to a regulated nervous system in my case. Part of this was also my unconscious belief that there would be a quick fix out there somewhere waiting for me. I would just have to find the one thing, the one modality, the one person that would finally help me heal. I was definitely practicing spiritual materialism, believing that certain temporary states of mind would be a refuge from suffering and save me. Temporarily, yes, but not sustainable. But I didn't know any other way, and so the seeking continued. What also held me back now, as I'm reflecting on it these days, was my nomad life and my frequent traveling. Moving around a lot and not having a stable community and home base was not supporting my mental, emotional, and physical health. On the contrary, it was a constant additional stressor for my nervous system, but I wasn't aware of that. It was my life that I was used to for many, many years since I was a teenager, and my body was addicted to the stress hormones that this life of travel and nomading the world was creating. Plus, I was still drinking quite a bit of alcohol and coffee, two substances that did not support my process. And so even though I kept doing everything I thought that would help me heal, in retrospect, it wasn't very surprising that nothing had a very lasting effect. And it was in this phase that I discovered and explored Jungian psychology and shadow work. And even though I was much more aware and conscious, still nothing changed much from phase 1. I was still stuck in a cycle of codependent dating patterns, heartbreak, depression, and loneliness, several years into my healing journey. And in addition, my body was starting to really suffer from all of that emotional stress. My gut and digestion were a hot, painful mess, and nothing was helping. And I just couldn't put the pieces together. And this phase lasted for several years, and it was full of ups and downs, and I was living an amazing life on the outside. I was successful professionally, and at the same time, I was still in a lot of pain inside. It took another massively painful breakup for me to understand that I couldn't heal myself on the level of my mind. It suddenly just became increasingly clear, and at the time I was living on Bali, that the answers and my healing, they were in my body. And so I dove headfirst into breathwork, something that I discovered a couple of years before. And the breath opened the world of my emotions to me in a way that I hadn't experienced them before. I was finally allowing myself to fully feel something that, was really foreign to me for all of my life. I started to learn more and more about the nervous system, about trauma, about attachment wounding. I dove really deep into all aspects of the breath and breath work. And slowly, I was able to understand my patterns in a whole new dimension. And yet, it was only the beginning. In May and June of 2020, I surrendered fully, completely, wholeheartedly. The 8 months preceding that decision were a shit show in all departments, I'm not gonna lie. After that last painful relationship ending, my life fell apart once again in all the ways possible. Nothing was working. No plans came to fruition. On the contrary, I got slapped in the face over and over and over again, and doors got slammed, plans just didn't work out, and I felt very, very lost at the turn of 2019, 2020. And so I was done. I vowed to sign up for emotional celibacy and deleted all dating apps of my phone. That was a big deal. And the pandemic came to rescue me and unexpectedly planted me in my hometown in Germany for months on end, something I just would have never done voluntarily. And this is where I reconnected to my roots, to the land that I came from, really for the first time in my life. I dove deeper and deeper into somatic practices, breath work, and nervous system healing. In this process, I slowly began to feel centered, and I committed to doing whatever it took to fall in love with myself and my life, even if it was to be single for the rest of it. And when I did, the universe came up to meet me, very unexpectedly. A few weeks later, I went out for a very casual pizza dinner with someone that I knew in Berlin, a fellow breathworker. And a few weeks after that, we unexpectedly fell in love with each other. Building and growing a healthy, conscious relationship became the fertile ground from which I was able to integrate my attachment wounding. As I found myself in my first truly safe relationship container, my nervous system learned that it was safe to relax. And finally feeling safe in a relationship was really the ultimate key to healing for me. It was that final piece that really brought it all together. It was my final coming home. And the journey into my body became increasingly profound and healing. I understood that the body is where the key to healing is. Trauma is stored in the body, and it has to be processed in the body. I organically moved away from peak healing experiences towards, slow nervous system and trauma-informed modalities. Somatic psychotherapy, nervous system work, and embodiment practices really helped me to find more and more healing. The final step was settling down and building a home with my wonderful partner last year. Embracing the slow life has been huge for my own personal, mental, emotional, and physical health. I feel fit, I feel regulated, resilient, energized, creative, joyful, and grateful on a daily basis. And as I'm reflecting on the past 12 months, I got engaged in January to just an amazing human being, and I'm so, so grateful for her and the safety that she's given my nervous system in our time together. We bought a van. We moved to Portugal last summer. We adopted a amazing little puppy called Tony, and we started a successful business together. And after years of struggle, life finally is in flow. And I'm feeling really infinite gratitude for what I'm co-creating with my partner. There are quite a few healing dimensions that I had to embrace on my journey. And first of all, really, it's all about becoming conscious, right? I had to wake up to myself and my unconscious patterns. I had to understand my conditioning and my limiting beliefs. I had to understand my survival and protective mechanisms that were actually causing me a lot of suffering. I had to develop autonomic awareness and a connection to my nervous system and how it's working and its patterns and triggers. I had to meet and integrate my shadow parts, of which there were quite a lot. I had to identify my attachment style, which was really something that was a big game changer. Just understanding how I was working in relationships, in dating situations was huge, to understand that I had a massive anxious attachment style that in relationship, in a safe relationship, actually sometimes turned into more of an avoidant attachment style. I had to heal my mother wound and my father wound. I had to reclaim and reparent and heal my inner child. I had to identify and integrate conflicting inner parts. I had to learn to fully feel, process, and express my emotions. I had to relate to and express anger in a healthy way. I had to return to and feel connected to my body. My body. And I had to establish a sense of safety in the body by learning to access safe resources and tools for self-regulation. And I had to develop a lot of self-compassion for myself and come back to my own intuition and build trust in myself. And now the big question is, what helped me heal the most? Even though I don't regret anything I did on my healing experimentation marathon, I wish it wouldn't have taken me this long to find true healing. I mean, all those years, it felt like an eternity, and it often felt like Groundhog Day every day. I definitely think that it all had its place, and everything I tried out was a piece that would complete the final puzzle. Some experiences were life-changing in the way that they shifted my consciousness and how I perceived life and the world. For example, the one-on-one plant medicine journeys that I did with my shaman in Ecuador were a huge game changer. Some of the fasting retreats that I did a 200-hour yoga teacher training in Bali in 2015. That was life-changing. And so even if they didn't necessarily help me heal my traumas directly and sustainably, they still played a pivotal role in the evolution of Conni. And I still think back to some of the insights that I gained from, for example, my San Pedro and ayahuasca ceremonies. However, most of my true healing came from much more grounded modalities that didn't require me to roam the world and spend a ton of money. In a world that glamorizes these big breakthroughs and peak experiences, the truth is that most of the healing work actually lies in the small and the slow and the tedious, digestible process of showing up for ourselves over and over and over again. And so here's some of the modalities and things that I did that really truly helped me in the long run. Number one, somatic psychotherapy. Huge, especially somatic experiencing and NARM, two modalities that I can highly recommend. I also did a lot of parts work based on IFS, that stands for Internal Family Systems. which really helped me understand my inner workings and patterns, and how certain patterns and behaviors and reactions all sort of made sense. And of course, transformational breathwork and the whole world of breathwork, really. But it was transformational breathwork, the deep dive journeys using conscious connected breathing back then that helped me to really access my emotional world in a way that was new to me, but it was so liberating and continues to be as I keep practicing those modalities myself, even as a teacher, but also having a daily breathwork practice to improve my functional breathing pattern and to regulate my nervous system continues to be a source of just a lot of healing. Self-education, I read a lot of books, I did a lot of courses, but learning about trauma in the nervous system and in the process developing more autonomic nervous system awareness, understanding how my nervous system worked and how I was storing trauma in my body was huge, and really helped me to develop more self-compassion for myself. Healing my gut was also really, really big for my healing. As we say, the gut is the second brain, and they're directly linked. And so when my gut wasn't well, my brain was not well either. And so I started working with an immunologist and functional medicine expert to get my full spectrum blood work done, and urine testing and stool testing to look for deficiencies and inflammation, and checking my hormone levels, especially also cortisol and other food intolerances. And so they then prescribed customized natural supplements for me to support my healing on a physical level, which is really important because it sets the foundation for healing on all different levels and dimensions. Another huge step was quitting caffeine. Really, really massive in regulating my nervous system and just feeling so much more calm on the inside. And also slowing down my life and creating a home base in Portugal with my partner really, really helped me to ground down and really feel centered and establish routines. And now I'm like, I don't even want to travel anymore. I just feel so nice and relaxed and chilled and grounded in this new life that we're building in Portugal. And lastly, my relationship. I'm immensely, immensely grateful that I was given this opportunity with my partner to heal in relationship. A lot of our issues, a lot of our traumas happen in relationship, and I truly believe that they have to be healed in relationship. There's only so much work we can do on our own in therapy and in doing other things, but we need relationships to really experience true integration of our woundings from our past, which usually stem from, in many cases, issues in childhood. Healing and inner work is not a destination. It's a lifelong process. And considering the vastness of our unconscious compared to the slice of our conscious awareness, there might always be material that we can integrate and work on. But it should never be a never-ending hamster wheel either. Whereas back then I was stuck in never-ending cycles of healing, today I'm at ease with the areas that still require my attention. I'm not desperate to constantly be working on them. They don't impact my life to a degree that keep me powerless. Instead, I acknowledge these parts within me and I visit them now and again and I work with them. Some things I'm still in the process of integrating are my perfectionism, imposter syndrome, people pleasing, that kind of stuff. And I still work with a therapist every now and again, and I'm about to start working with a new coach for a few months. And I mainly do this because it brings me joy. Plus, as a teacher and a coach, I believe the best work I can do for my students and my clients is my continued inner work. And to think that my inner work is done at age 39 it could also be a sign of a grandiose ego. I mean, who knows? Yet, overall, I know that the biggest part of climbing the healing mountain is done. And I really hope that this video was helpful for you, and maybe was just something small that I said, maybe just a sentence or two, but hopefully it will make your healing journey a little bit easier. I would love to know what has helped you the most on your journey. So if you like, drop it in the comments below. I would really like to keep the conversation going and help each other out. And with that, take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.